like to see facts, figures. They like to see lots of URLs, hyperlinks. Okay, the more you give them, the more book titles, the more references there are, the better it is for them. Okay. The green learner. What are green learners? They are practical, right? Their favorite question being, okay, what are the practical applications? Because they will think, how do I apply this? All right. So that's where when we talk about learning, yeah, we need to make it more sequential, more organized, because they have to follow a certain rule, right? So if you are doing training, or if you're encountering a green learner and you're jumping all over the place, it frustrates the green brain. Okay, so for the green brain, there has to be a sequence, there has to be a flow, there's got to be some kind of an agenda. All right. Next, the red learner, social. Okay, remember, I think Edward was saying something about he also liked to hear somebody telling him how to go about doing it. Right? A very good experiment would be if you buy a new machine. It could be a new iPhone, right? Or a new company fax, or a new photocopier. The way a person approaches using that new office equipment is a very good telltale sign of which brain that person is. Because chances are if the person says, hey, you know, how do I operate this? Can someone show it to me? Chances are you're either green because you want to show and I want to do it step by step, or it could be red because I want to hear it rather than to read a manual. Okay? So for red learners, it's important who the person is delivering the information is. Okay, because they like to know who this information comes from. So think about the people in your lives who make decisions based on, you know, my good friend said this, so it must be right. Okay? So it's not like they are being silly or anything, it's just the way the brain prefers to learn, prefers to take information. Okay? For the yellow learner, okay, remember the yellow learners, they're global visionaries. Okay? They like to break out the norm. For them, what if is exciting. So for them, they don't want to know all the details. Okay? I know the green brainers are going, no, you need the details. Right? But for the yellow brainers, they like to see the concepts. So if you show it to them that by learning this, it links to the big picture, it links to the organization, okay? Then they're more inclined, more motivated to learn. Okay? Because they want to know, what if I know this piece of information? What if I attended this workshop? What if I attended this program? What if I learned this skill? Okay? Where can I apply this? How does it impact the world at large? That to them is the most important. Okay? So these are the 4 different thinking. And if you go into the behavioral attributes, for a person who is on the first third of expressive, chances are you prefer to be quiet. You really like that kind of space where you can reflect, be a little bit more reserved. So you don't want to go into a rah-rah situation and do role-playing and debating and standing in front of the group and doing group presentations and so on. Okay? Compared to somebody on the third expressive, right? You really want to get things going, you want to be part of the party, you want to stand in front of the crowd, you want to do presentations, you want to share. Okay? So that's how they prefer to learn. The first third assertive, okay, because the first third assertive is the peacekeeper, where I prefer to put my energy in making peace, right? Then that's where formats like debates, okay, because there are some formats like debates, some non-formal education techniques like debates and all that for people to learn certain topics. These are things that you should avoid. All right. Compared to somebody on the third assertive, put them on the debating team, for instance. All right. Have a motion and get people to be on different sides, and they will learn this. Okay, because they like to put their points across, and the more they do this, the more they learn. All right. The flexible learner, the first third flexible, okay, first third flexible prefers defined situations. Okay, you really prefer defined situations. So again, when you say you're going to start at a certain time, you do end at a certain time. Okay, when you say we're going to be here, we will be here. Because they prefer a defined situation. Compared to somebody on a third flexible, right? Then for them, anything goes. Okay, but the danger for the third flexible is because anything goes, we may go elsewhere as well, right? So that's where you need to pull them back a little bit and say, okay, this is where you need to focus. All right? So this sums up the different thinking and behavioral preferences in terms of learning styles. Yeah? And just to share a little bit more in terms of learning environment, for the blue brain, okay, blue brains prefer bright areas, brighter light, okay, a slightly more formal presentation, okay, because blue brains are critical. They like to look you up and down and say, okay, who are you? All right. So if you want to appeal to them, then that's where these are important. For the green brain, all right, again, bright light, they're minimalist. So they don't like to see too many flowers and things. Okay, just go straight to the point. We just want to see the flow of things. Okay, so when you're creating a learning environment, for the blue and the green, they're pretty similar. For the red, oh, they love coffees. Okay, so have lots of tea breaks, lots of sessions where people interact, get to know one another a little bit more. Okay, and dim lighting is fine. Romantic. Okay, because it promotes that kind of interaction. Yeah? And for the yellow brainers, dim lighting is fine too. And in fact, if you have as informal a setting, the better it is for them to learn. Okay, that's their preference. So now, how do we enhance learning with Emergenetics? So just some tips for you, yeah? When you walk into a room, sometimes it's difficult, right? To say, okay, I know exactly my entire room is full of green or blue or red. It's mostly a mixture, right? So what we do is we pull the best of everything and we try to do a match, okay? Obviously, you can't cater to every single type of thinking, but you do your best, right? So these are just some tips. When you're creating a learning environment, or if you are in a position of training or sharing information or creating a more conducive environment back in your office and so on, when you start meeting or a session, provide an agenda. All right? State the objectives. Check your pace of delivery. Okay, because remember, those people who are third assertive one, okay, I got it. What's next? But for the first third assertive, they like a slow and easy pace. So you got to check your pace. Yeah? Use visuals. Connect the information to something useful, and this is particularly important for the yellow brains. Right? Provide something in writing to reinforce the learning. Provide instructions in writing, and give time for reflections. Also, be aware of all the different brains present in your group, because a lot of us will just know what we like. But we always, or we don't always, but we sometimes forget that there are different kinds of learners in the group as well. Yeah? And also be cognizant of the different kinds of behaviors. Start and end on time. And if you need to go for a longer session, remember to break every hour. And if you can, play music. And also, if you can, change something every 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, this is for the yellow brains, because the yellow brains will get bored very easily. Yeah? And if you can, also swap seats, because when you swap seats, you change the energy in the room as well. Okay? So that more or less sums up in a quick 45-minute session. In a nutshell, I've shown to you 4 thinking preferences. If you don't remember everything, just remember 4 different colored brains. Okay, the analytical, structural, social, and conceptual. So green brain, or rather the blue brain, favorite question is why, objective driven. Green brain, favorite question is how, process driven. Red brain is who, people driven. And conceptual is what if, this is ideas driven. Right? And also the 3 behavioral preferences, expressiveness, assertiveness, and flexibility. And together these 7 attributes form Emergenetics. And I hope that I've already demonstrated to you that different colored brains really have different thinking preferences, and therefore there are some implications in terms of their learning. Okay, so for you to really take this back and see if you can use it. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for having me here. Are there any questions from anyone?
Yeah, more of an observation than a question. I noticed that in your history of research,
sure.
There was no mention of Carl Jung.
Okay.
All of this, for me, reflects very much back to Carl Jung and the MBTI instrument as well.
That's right.
It maps pretty much onto